consider myself so fortunate to have this opportunity to introduce the sutra known as the Lotus Sutra. Traditionally, it's believed that sutra cannot be expounded by ordinary beings, that it can only be explained by sublime Aryas. So therefore, in the tradition that I was brought up, we studied quite extensively the commentary of the sutra, not so much the sutra itself. Of course, we have the sutra on our shrine, we read it sometimes. We even have the, this tradition or the habit of carrying the sutra sometimes in the town with a lot of processions. Even today in places like Sikkim, in many parts of Himalayas, like Bhutan, when there is a shortage of rain, I don't know, when there's a calamities like earthquake, when there's a dispute within the family or obstacles, generally, there is a tradition of either carrying the sutra, as I said earlier, with a procession, going around different valleys. We also have the tradition of what we call shalche, which means just opening the sutra. You don't even read, just open it, as if, it's almost like the pretending of reading. Then, of course, there are also, those who are well-to-do, like kings and the queens of the past. They have actually offered especially this and some other sutras, like the Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, engraved with gold, silver. I've actually seen in Paris, Musée Guimet, this particular sutra in many different, in many different precious jewels, put it together. It's amazing. So what I want to say is actually, an ignorant, defiled, ordinary being like me have no sort of capacity to teach or explain the sutra. But at the same time, I have to express my joy for giving this chance to introduce you just the mere existence of this sutra. The sutra, as some of you know, has become a very important, and it became a very influential sutra. Probably because India is so rich with wisdom and the tradition and the culture, and I don't know, probably in India, in where the birthplace of this sutra, probably the sutra is sort of forgotten, but elsewhere the sutra had a very big influence. Like in China, the sutra even have the influence on their folklore, like the, stories that are told by mothers to their children have influence from this sutra. China, Japan, Korea had, this sutra is one of the most popular sutra, I believe. Sudharma Pundarika Sutra, as it is known in Sanskrit. My pronunciation is not good, so please excuse me. I think in Chinese it's called Fa Hua Jing. something like that. And in Japanese, it's called Myoho Renge Kyo, which basically is becoming kind of quite a important, I heard now, coming back to India, reciting even the recitation like Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. It's, I think it's referred as Beofa Gyong in Korea, in Korean. Is our Korean friends here? Any Korean friends? Am I pronouncing well? How do you pronounce this? Bo
Hwa Kyung.
Pya.
Hwa Kyung.
Okay. I'm sorry, but when you said this, it reminded me bibimbap. You know that fried rice, Korean fried rice. And then I think there's also a Vietnamese pronunciation, which I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I want to tell you that this sutra is had a very, very, very big influence in not just on the spiritual dimension, but in every level, and rightfully so. Because I think a lot of people forget that sutras such as this can be, it has so much wisdom and skillful means, especially talking about the skillful means, because this is one of the ingredients of the Lotus Sutra, talking about skillful means. So it's very, very relevant. It is absolutely not outdated sort of literature, if you are thinking like that. It is very, very much up to date. It's very progressive. It's actually, I would say, avant-garde. Is it relevant to like our day-to-day life? Absolutely. For parenting, for relationship, for management, I don't know, for leadership, for business. And I would even, you know, if you have time, we will talk later, because I have heard that in some of the people who follow the Lotus Sutra, they also chant this recitation, and some just aiming to have a, I don't know, good car, a Ferrari, or a good coffee machine, or something like this, which is also, I would not completely dismiss outright. There is a place for that, but the important thing is it is much, much, much more than that. It's like if you plant a rice, then hay is included, you know, but the farmers don't put full attention to the hay when their attention is to the rice. But sometimes, not wise farmers, they may be distracted by the hay instead of the rice. And this could happen, of course. You know, this happens always in the all spiritual tradition. Now, for Buddhists, and especially for the Mahāyāna, and let me just briefly introduce you what is Mahāyāna. I think people sort of generalize thinking that Mahāyāna is what is practiced in China, Japan, Korea, Bhutan, mostly this Himalayan region, and Sharvakayana, or so-called Hinayana, which is, by the way, a derogatory term. It's a Mahāyāna chauvinist term, so we don't want to use this term, Hinayana. Sharvakayana is practiced in places like Burma, Sri Lanka, etc. And sometimes people even think the Mahāyāna is a sort of a greater, as in hierarchy. But this is not a complete, it's not really a proper understanding, I would say. The word Maha has something to do with a view and attitude and therefore behavior. So the Mahāyāna which as, if we manage to reach to some of the important point here, we will discuss the attitude towards life, towards everything. According to Mahāyāna school of Buddhism, which this sutra is based on, it has a different way of looking at things. So we are not necessarily talking about a hierarchy. So this is something that I want to put first. So in the Mahāyāna tradition, Pundarika Sutra is a very important sutra. Now, why? Why is it important? Now, as a human being, not just as a human being, just generally as a sentient being, we have something called hope. We do always have, hope and fear. And, in our life, hope is important. There is this thing called hope. We hope, and And then another important factor about our life in general, but living beings in general, but especially for human beings, hope and confidence. Confident of not just as a human, but just as a being, simply as a being. Confidence is absolutely important. If you look at it, majority of our suffering comes because you are suffering with confidence. There's no good confidence, no healthy confidence. And therefore, majority of the people don't feel hopeful. Instead, they feel more fearful. They feel hopeless. They feel, they feel low. So I'm just tapping just one aspect of the Lotus Sutra. So please don't think that I'm covering everything. Now, even from the hope and confidence's point of view, the Lotus Sutra really gives us the base of hope. When we talk about a hope, when we talk about a confidence, there should be a base why we hope. For instance, if you are washing charcoal, and thinking that one day the charcoal will become white or, not black, there is no base. If you are washing the cup, a dirty cup, there is a base, the hope that the cup will become clean. That hope has a undeceiving base. And this is what Lotus Sutra really essentializes. And I think it is so important, as I was saying earlier, parenting, schooling, relationship, everything, you need hope and you need confidence. As I say, even though I've made some sort of a notes and I have the sutra itself right in front of me, and because of the shortage of the time, I can't cover everything. So I'm going to just say whatever comes in my mind, which means it's not going to be too cohesive or orderly. So you will have to excuse this. So I was talking about like school, okay, education. For instance, education is very important. Now, educating a kid, let's say, the Lotus Sutra's point of view, let's say, I'm just playing with the words a bit. From the Lotus Sutra's point of view, the way we look at the education is, it's something fundamentally, something wrong that you are doing. Education, giving an education to a kid is the most precarious and the worst thing you are doing. I don't know whether this, but you have no choice. You know, you need to educate your kid. When there's a red light, you stop. When there's a green light, you go. Otherwise, in the, conventional world, you suffer. But Lotus Sutra's point of view is a kid, a child is perfect as it is. Everybody actually, on the fundamental level, is a perfect. And they've forgotten this. Because they are so entangled with, oh, we are not perfect, we need the education, we need a lot of this sort of shaping up, alteration, and this is where things goes wrong. You understand? And I think that information is quite important. I think even as a Buddhist teacher myself, like my teacher used to tell me, when I teach, I should always think that I'm doing something, something very precarious here. I'm basically brainwashing. Basically, making somebody little not normal. And usually it is your point of view, which you have studied from the books and from the culture that you brought up. So I don't know whether you are contributing. Are you really contributing? Well, from the Lotus Sutra's point of view, so to speak, not really. But we know out of skillful means, as the red light and the green light thing, we know we need to do this. But you see, the thing is, if the teacher has that as a base, the teacher is already a humble person. Then the teacher already knows, okay, I'm doing something not really the best thing, but out of necessity, I'm doing this. And that, in a very ironically or a twisted way, is a hope. And it is a very, it's like a base of confidence. So just like that relationship, I mean, if we have time, we can talk about that, because that's an important thing, relationship, human relationship. I mean, have you ever wondered why there's like one particular being that we can stay together and we love this being more and more and more and more? But when two human beings are together, we begin to see faults and we begin to have a conflict. But this particular being that you like more and more is a dog. You like dogs more and more and more. Partly because the dogs don't talk. Well, we say that they talk, and we have done all sorts of assumptions and, kind of interpretation. Who knows whether when they're wagging the tail that it's a sign of their joy. Well, but we have this kind of assumptions. And again, here, we are not really saying no education, no relationship. We are not saying that. We are talking about having a genuine confidence, genuine hope, and genuine humility also. This confidence is very much together with humility. And this is one of the main subject or the backbone or the spine of the Lotus Sutra, or the proper name is Suddharma Pundarika Sutra. So if I don't know, if I elaborate this a little bit, okay. So if you move to spiritual path, we talk about virtue, isn't it? All spiritual path talks about a virtue. This is the right thing to do. This is not right thing. This is the wrong thing to do. But it also, when we talk about a virtue, it has to have a base to decide what is virtue. Why washing a charcoal with a hope that it will become white is not virtuous? Because it's going to lead you to disappointment. It's never going to become white. And if you think this is going to become white, you are up for suffering. Why the cup that is so stained with a sauce and all sorts of dirt looks so dirty, but why, when we wash, we have that, just not only a confidence that it will become clean, many of us, we even, I don't know whether it makes sense, but there's a joy doing the, dishwashing, because it's like you can claim the result of it's pristine and clean, but actually it's not you who made it clean. You understand? It is, the cup is inherently clean, but you can also claim the credit that I use this soap, I use the washing machine, I use this and that, and here. And then people also get so happy with you. You can claim. But the real pristine and the cleanliness exists within itself, the cup. So it has a base. When you wash a cup, it has a base that it will become clean. No cup is going to deceive you, like you wash and it never become clean. You can trust. You can take refuge. Okay, this is how the Lotus Sutra will say. Lotus Sutra has a point where we talk about taking refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. What it really means is, coming back to the example, you can take refuge to the fact that the cup will become, it will not deceive you, it will be cleaned. If you clean it, it will become clean. It will never deceive you. That is important. So, yes, in Buddhism also we talk about virtue, non-virtue. I'm sure many other religions talk about virtue and non-virtue. But in Buddhism, especially in Mahāyāna Buddhism, virtue and non-virtue, we talk based on this. If Lotus Sutras point that we are all fundamentally pure and clean, if we lost that, then Buddhist interpretation of virtue and non-virtue will become so theistic, so religious, and so dogmatic, and so extreme. Then we will have to believe in inherently existing non-virtue, sin, so on and so forth. Then, okay, so the virtue. I just made some notes on some of the things that we... Okay, another thing is a discipline. Every religion or a spiritual system has a discipline. Buddhists also have. Buddhists have many, many kinds of discipline. What is found as a good discipline in one school of Buddhism is not necessarily a good discipline in one. As we talked yesterday, some, as the gentleman sitting right in front of me is busy shaving his hair, as if growing the hair is not a right thing. You understand? The monks do this. And then do we have yogis here? I don't know. There are yogis who keep their hair. So that's their discipline. But anyway, eat meat or not eat meat, or all kinds of discipline. There's so many discipline. Okay, fundamentally, sitting straight when you meditate. Buddhists would prefer you to sit straight when you meditate rather than lying down on a hammock. Even though the Buddhists will never say this won't do. It can, but they prefer you sit straight and all this. Why have discipline? Again, go back to the base. If there is no base, discipline has no foundation. Like going back to the cup and the washing. Even the washing requires discipline. And that discipline works. The discipline is undeceiving. This discipline is necessary, all because the base is pure and clean. And then maybe just one more, mindfulness, meditation. And this is really important to know. Many people think that Buddhists meditate to be less stress. Mahāyāna people don't care a bit about whether you are stressed or not. Actually, many meditators, mindfulness people, they are more stressed for not being mindful. If you have lost the wisdom of this Pundarika Sutra, really, mindfulness is a cause for constipation, because you are always worried, oh, am I mindful? Is my mind all right? So on and so forth. So the mindfulness, why be mindful? Within the Buddhism itself, there are sutras after sutras, shastras after shastras, make mockery of the technique of mindfulness. If you read some of the higher tantric texts, you know what they call mindfulness? Gompi Chang, which is in Tibetan, Gompi Chang. Chang is like, how should I say? It's like edge. It's like so imagine, okay, maybe like this. So you are walking over this. So both sides is abyss, cliff. This is what meditation is. It is a treacherous journey. All meditation is, actually. This is why in the Tantra, they actually sort of laugh at meditation. And not only, meditation, so-called the technique of meditation, has so many booby traps. Some specially designed, deliberately designed. The others you design along the way. As you progress, your own mind creates booby traps. And then there are railings that you can hold on to. You are walking on this very precarious journey, walking on this path. And then you have this railings and hinges that you can hold. They're all made out of Lego? Lego. Right? The toy that doesn't stick. Any of this meditation reference and the railings, they are all there to make you feel secure and have some sort of a direction, but they are all easily collapsible, easily, dismantleable. So, again, when we talk about mindfulness, when we talk about meditation, we need a base. By doing meditation, do we go somewhere? Do we reach somewhere? What's the difference between being mindful and not mindful? Is there a base or a base that by doing so-called mindfulness, we actually gain something? And this is what is being covered in the Sudharma Pundarika Sutra. So now, I guess, the main question is, so what is this base that I've been talking about? And do you have a book? Which chapter is this, the base? I think it's in the 1 and 2? Yeah, I think so. Yes. 1, 2, also 4. I think it depends a little bit, different editions also. 4. So what is this base I have been talking? Okay. I'll just throw the word first, the term, Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature, the basic goodness of being. That's what we are talking about, Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature. Okay. So this is what Mahāyāna people think. Everybody is Buddha, not just human beings, insects, everything. Every being is Buddha. That's it. Fundamentally, that's it. Okay. One would think, oh, that's not only it's encouraging and it's simple, why all these Buddhist teachings, 84,000 teachings, why this meditation and all? Why didn't Buddha say, oh, everybody is Buddha? That's it. Then job done. All this penance and all this practice, not necessary. It doesn't work like this. As the Tibetan master said, like your eyelashes, too close, you don't see it. The Buddha is very much within, it's much closer than your own nose. But because it's so close, you don't see it. And also, not only it's close, but it's also so simple. It's really, really, the moment the word Buddha is mentioned, most of the time people think in terms of halos, third eyes, and this gently walking with a begging bowl, the golden, color, all that, Siddhartha, the prince of Shakya. But we are not talking about this kind of Buddha. In fact, in another Mahāyāna Sutra, Vajracchedika Sutra, Buddha really condemned, really strongly, saying that if you see Buddha as a form, like a halo, the beautiful looking man, all of that, you have a wrong idea. And followed by a Zen master even said, if you see the Buddha in the street, you should kill him. Very much based on this teaching. Okay, one question is, why Buddha taught shunyata, emptiness? Why not Buddha said, oh, you are Buddha. That's it, job done. In one of the sutra, again, a similar sutra, this is what Buddha said. Let's say a mother has a newborn baby, And the baby, for the baby's survival, mother's milk is very important, absolutely important. But baby is not well for the time being. And the doctor finds out that maybe for 10, 20 days, the baby should refrain from drinking mother's milk. So then what do? Mother should apply something very bitter on her nipple, so on and so forth, like shooing away, discouraging the baby to drink the mother's milk. Likewise, Buddha said, actually, it's so important that the beings know that they are Buddha. This is why actually the Lotus Sutra, in one of the chapters, Lotus Sutra said, this is the absolute sutra. This is so important. Only this sutra. This is the king of the sutra. Only reciting even the title of this sutra will do. I guess this is where the practice such as Namo Sudharma Pundarika Sutra, Namo Lotus, prostration to the Lotus Sutra, so on and so forth, must have come. I totally, believe that. And yes, they should do that. And this is express. Not only that, in the part of the sutra, Buddha said, as long as on earth there is somebody talking about the Buddha nature, Tathagata Garbha, as long as there is the concept that within us, we are the Buddha, as long as this teaching is alive, Buddhism is still alive. If you lost that concept, shunyata, this paramita, that paramita, this tantra, that tantra, doesn't work. So, like even now, I'm just as ordinary as you, but the only confidence I gather to sit higher than you and get all this attention is, again, in the sutra, Buddha said, in the future, in the degenerated time, if the word of the Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature, come out, even from a hunter, even from a prostitute, you should revere and pay homage to this person as the Buddha, because it is the most important message that people should hear, the innate Buddha. Okay, I'm losing my thread. Before that, you need to help me rewinding this. Virtue, discipline, meditation, eat the base. Okay, I know. Yes, so yeah, I was talking about the baby and the milk. So why teach shunyata? According to the Buddha, he said, shunyata is like applying this bitter thing on mother's nipple to shoo away the baby for the time being. Because for 10, 20 days, maybe mother should not drink the milk. That's why the shunyata is taught. This actually should be kind of a shocking for some of the Madhyamika students, because we always praise shunyata as one of the most as the most important teaching. But actually, this is what Buddha said. But eventually, the baby can't stay away too long from mother's milk. For the time being, the baby should be discouraged from the milk. Why? Because baby could get sick. Just like that, for the time being, some of the students should hear the teachings on the shunyata. Things does not exist truly. Why? Because there's a good reason. There's also we, as a human being, as a defiled being, we have so much clinging to something called self, me, I, ego. And sometimes we get mixed up with this ego. Maybe the soul is along that line. Buddhists don't have the concept of soul. So this ego, the self, which is actually an illusion, sometimes students can get mixed up with this Buddha nature, the Tathagata Garbha, and the self. And with that, you don't gain confidence. Ego and the self does not produce confidence. It's actually the opposite. Selfishness produces insecurity. It's very evident from the printing of the name card to, I don't know, getting promotion to everything. Self. When you cherish yourself, it only leads you to insecurity. But understanding of the Buddha nature gives you confidence. Understanding of this, what you call it, fundamental purity. So it's for this reason shunyata is taught. And then eventually everybody must hear, and this is the only way. And it's sometimes called Buddha's vehicle. And there is a whole chapter about all these, vehicles, yanas, different schools, different, stages. They are actually all there as a skillful means, but eventually you have to all come to the conclusion that we are all pure. And only that can give us the confidence and clarity. Okay. Now, it's all very well that we have a Buddha nature. How do we cultivate it? How do we recognize it? How do we sort of have a taste of it, at least a glimpse of it? There is so many, many, many methods. So many. Simpler, higher the method, more, of course, easier to miss and easier to misinterpret also, which is taught basically in what we call the Tantrayana, where as simple as someone gets frightened or fall from few steps, and right at that very moment, a very skilled master, a very accomplished master, if they happen to be one of them, and if you also trust this master could point out there that clear, uncontaminated, uncontrived, unfabricated, naked mind. Watch that. Student, the disciple, also without any bias, without any preconception, without any reference, looking at that naked mind, and either have a glimpse of it or have a full awakening and totally get liberated from all kinds of entanglement that we have. That is possible, but this is more taught in the Mahāyāna's section called Vajrayana or the Tantrayana. Now, in the Mahāyāna, which is what this sutra is about, there are many levels which I will share, maybe one or two. One is deductive. So I always give this example. Like, if you have never tasted a salt in your life, and my job is to introduce you the taste of salt, that's a challenge because you don't know what is salt, right, in the first place. So how am I supposed to explain this to you? So a skilled master would then give this student sugar, chilies, coriander, I don't know, radish, whatever, all different taste. And then let them eat this, and one by one the master says, that's not it. The salt that I'm talking about doesn't taste like this. So there is that kind of rich tradition of introducing things that are not Buddha nature, and then you slowly, slowly guide the student into the experience of this Tathagata Garbha. That's one. Now, the other one is using analogy. Now, this is a little bit complicated maybe, but maybe it's also something that you can relate to. You know, let's say you have everything. You are not so sick. Your phone is working. Your car is working. Your family is all fine. You understand? So everything is sort of working. But then you always have some sort of awkward feeling that something is missing. This is very beautifully explained by the commentator Bodhisattva Maitreya in his book called Uttara Tantra Shastra. So beautiful. Basically, I don't know, the depression is maybe not the right word, but something along that line, you know, like empty, feeling empty, you know. Is this all there is to this life? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, people, parties, job. You understand? You know, some sort of a calling from inside. And that is because the Buddha nature, the Tathagata Garbha is knocking, saying that, hey, you know, you have something that you are ignoring all the time. You are distracted, you know. You are not knowing me. You know, this is real you. And why are you you understand? And this is where, you know, you must have this picture. The Buddhists talk about the renunciation. You know, teachings such as suffering. You know, Buddhists are, I don't know, somehow known for talking about suffering all the time. Not a good brand, actually, branding of Buddhism, I think. But the reason why the Buddhists talk about the suffering a lot, this is what Buddhists think. For instance, look, none of you are carrying your Barbie doll or a water gun. What happened? When you were a baby, this is a priceless thing. The Barbie doll, if somebody sort of snatch it, you cry bitterly. But that you renounced, because as you grow up, it's not talking. This Barbie doll is not talking, not changing clothes, not blinking. So you grow up, and then you begin to have other stuff. I don't know, like Ferrari cars, I don't know, fridge, phone, computer, I don't know, like other stuff. But then you also renounce that because it's futile. It's like your app, I guess, in your phone. You know, new app, you get excited, and you hardly even remember you have downloaded that app after you automatically renounce. And when you reach 90 years old, I guess, of course, no more Barbie doll, no more Ferrari, but then maybe, I don't know, tablecloths, salt shaker, I don't know, whatever it is. So what the Pundarika people, the Pundarika Sutra would say is, okay, since you are going to get rid of all of this, can you sort of do it fast? You know, why take all this time and realize that it's futile? Because by 99, you realize, oh, all of this is kind of pointless. Why can't you sort of speed it up a little bit, like get done with it, like within 10 years probably, and then do something more meaningful, like exploration, go to Machu Picchu, go to, I don't know, go under a tree and watch your own show, which is called mindfulness, I guess. And then, you know, stuff like this. Why don't you do something meaningful? Meaningful in the, when we say meaningful, we are talking about looking inward. Really come, you know, trying to come back to this base called Tathagata Karma. Why don't you do that? You know, so this is one really important, but it's kind of difficult for us to understand because, you know, the reason why it's difficult is because we are so in love with a certain box that we are in. And as much as you claim that you are kind of special, meaning you are supposedly outside of the box, but you are not. Okay, probably sometimes you are out, but then you have already made another box there. So you are still in the box. So anyway, at times, I think what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to interpret this here, when you are inside this box of worldly life, you had a lot of praise, you have a lot of attention, you have a lot of friends, but you know, you feel awkward. You feel something is not right, something is, you know, and that is the warmth, you know, like before you see the fire or before you actually get burnt by the fire, you can already feel the warmth of the fire. Likewise, this is an occasional warmth of the Tathagata Garbha that is with you. But usually what happens is as soon as you have that warmth, you are panicked, you will have Panadol, you will throw parties, you will text somebody to numb yourself. So entertainment is basically numbing yourself so that you don't have to, you know, like, basically what I'm saying is, okay, boredom, that's it. Boredom and loneliness. Why do you feel bored? Have you ever wondered? Because you have the Buddha nature, that's why, actually. I don't know whether you are putting this correct, whether whether you are understanding this correctly. If you don't have the Buddha nature, you won't feel bored or lonely. I mean, about time that you don't feel lonely, isn't it? After all this, whatever we have on our, you know, how many channels we have on TV now. But, you know, we do feel loneliness, boredom. This is because the real thing is kicking. So this is one, it's sort of a tricky to understand, needs more explanation, I guess, but it's actually something that you should think about. And then the standard classic way to approach to this Tathagata Garbha is through, and this is important, I would say, and this is very much covered in the Lotus Sutra, longing for this, longing for the Buddha nature, longing for the Tathagata Garbha, longing. Because right now, we are longing the other ones. So, yeah, longing for this innate nature, tathagata, garva, longing for this. So in order to long, you need to do the hearing, you need to hear about it, you need to read about it. And I guess this is where, again, reading the name of the sutra again and again and again, I guess this is where it happened. But of course, as I said, things get a little derailed. Instead of longing the innate tathagata garva, maybe people are longing for better home, better, relationship, success in the job, so on and so forth. Because if you do that, fundamentally, then you are going away from the base. But if you have not forgotten the base, then all this is like bonus. And yes, of course, you should, why not? If there's a bonus, by all means, you should, accept it. You should. But I think the attention should be focused not to the bonus, but what do you call it, the real profit? Bonus and the real thing? What? Net profit? Net profit, okay. Should we take a break? I think so. It's too long, I think. And then when we come back, I will say a few more words, and then if you want to ask questions. A break, maybe like 10 minutes. Yes.
Rinpoche, I have one question about the animals, about the dogs. Sometimes we see a lot of dogs suffering, and we don't know what to do with them. Will it be all right to apply like a dog euthanasia or something like this to some of them if we can't really help them?
Of course. All beings have the Buddha nature. All beings. And in fact, recently someone even asked me, how about the robots? Because now, in this century, supposedly there's, what do you call it, AI, the artificial intelligence. There's that thing coming up, and then someone asked me, how about AI? Do they have Buddha nature? If the AI has fear, hope, you understand? If the AI has a fear and hope, yes, then that shows that. And if AI gets bored, lonely, absolutely. But if the AIs, and also I have to define this a little bit, if their boredom and loneliness is, what do you call it, uncontrollable, you understand? I mean, so this is why, to be a Buddhist, all you need is a cognizance. It doesn't matter how you look. You can look like a box. It doesn't matter. If you have a cognizance, then you have the Buddha nature. And yes, I agree with you. We should, and actually, I'll make a note of what you said. I wanted to talk about this, about compassion, base of compassion. Any other more question? Hmm? Oh, euthanize. Is that what you said? I didn't hear. You mean euthanize? You mean end life? Ah, that's a different. Because we, as a human being, we are deciding, right? As I said, you can't really talk to a dog saying, hello, do you want to, end your life now because you are in pain? But more likely, we, the living beings, even no matter what, majority of us, we want to live even 1 minute longer or I mean, if there is a choice, I think. So that's a very difficult question because you don't know. And also, moreover, according to Buddhism, everything gets, whatever you do, it is a cause for habit. You get habituated. For instance, like smoking. If you smoke, it is possible that it can become a habit. You understand? So killing oneself, killing or taking someone else's life through whatever means, gently or not gently, it could become a habit. And then we don't know. You know, our mind is very convoluted, defiled. And it's like many times psychiatrist helping a normal person, a crazy psychiatrist helping a normal person. Most of the psychiatrists, they are themselves crazy. And they are trying to help this normal person until they reach to psychiatrist's point of view of a normal person. And many times this... It's similar to education I was talking earlier, the kids' education. You know, what we are teaching them, I think fundamentally, this knowledge that whatever we do, yes, with a good intention, of course, but it's not humility, basically. I think that's what I'm talking about. Okay, next question. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. You may be planning to cover this, but I was wondering if you're going to be touching upon the context of the Lotus Sutra, as in who are the players and what the sutra per se is.
Okay, that's a really big one. Rajgriha is the place. Is that good enough? No? That's saying a lot. Do you know that whole China and Japan and Korea is got influenced by some place called Rajgir from Bihar? You should be quite amazed. Look at the state of Bihar now. In the courts, I mean, everything, paintings, folklore, songs, music. Wow. So much influence from this small, tiny village called Rajgir. Maybe those days is slightly bigger. So that's quite an important thing, especially for Indians to know. Okay, here, this is the gentleman here.
You mentioned about charcoal and the cup. Hello? Yeah, you mentioned about charcoal and the cup. That charcoal cannot be cleansed and cup, of course.
As thinking that it will become white.
Yeah. So, are there humans who are like charcoal and no matter what you do, they cannot be cleansed? And are there humans who can be cleansed?
It's actually a classic technical question.
I mean, are there a manufacturing defect? That's what I'm asking you.
I see. No. Especially the Madhyamika school, they don't believe. All beings, not only human beings, they are by nature pure Buddha. That's the whole thing about. But according to some school, they say that even though the nature is pure, there are beings who may have difficulty in accepting it. But that's for sure. People who get happiness for being impure, evil. Okay, I will tell you something. And this may be, okay, all these are classic Indian philosophy, by the way. We, the Bhutanese, Tibetan, we learned from the Indians. I'm teasing you guys a little bit. And Indians have all this twisted logic. And we have learned this for, I've myself learned for 20 over years, this twisted logic. I'll tell you. It's like this. This is what the Mahāyāna people will say. If you are evil, right? How do you define evil? Let's say you punch somebody and create pain, right? Create pain to somebody. In a very twisted language, the Mahāyāna people say that this alone is a proof enough that you can learn compassion. Can you see the logic? Because you know what is pain, yeah? If you don't know what is pain, no matter what I teach you, nothing works. Let's say the branch falls on your head. Doesn't think that, oh, I want to create a pain on his head. So I can teach compassion to branch. But you know when you beat somebody, you know what is pain. Because you got beaten up by someone and you learned, you have that education. So you are now using that knowledge to someone. So this means that you have empathy. And this is a really good material to work on. And on that note, I'm going to continue with our Mexican question earlier. And this is quite an important question because, you know, when we talk about compassion, bodhisattva activity, a bodhisattva, I don't know, most of you know, those who are new to the Buddhist teachings, bodhisattvas are like people who have taken a vow to liberate sentient beings, to put it very simply. So the practice of the bodhisattva is compassion, love, compassion, bodhicitta, which is the mind to enlighten all sentient beings. All sentient beings, not like one village or one country or your friends or family, all. Now, how is it that possible? Is it just being poetic? Is it like arbitrary, like concepts such as the world peace that we have been talking for centuries but never really materializing? Is it just a wishful thinking? No. Why not? Back to Pundarika's Pundarika Sutra's base. Because when the bodhisattva look at sentient beings, they see already as the Buddha. So that is a base that gives the bodhisattva the confidence to work with sentient beings. The commentary one of the commentaries example, a very good example is a very smart gold merchant looking at an ore, unpolished, unrefined gold that just looks like a piece of, dirt. If you are a good gold merchant, you are as happy as getting a polished, nicely, refined, and I don't know, gold chain, gold earring. You are as happy as that. Why? Because you know that gold ore, the ore is just gold. You don't see the dirt. The merchants, they go beyond that dirt. They don't even see it. They only see the gold. This is how the bodhisattva look at the sentient beings. They don't see that, anger, evil, jealousy, pride. That's the unpolished part. The bodhisattva sees the potential. The word is the potential, I guess, especially in the Pundarika Sutra. It's a very big chapter. Do you remember? I made a list of these chapters. I think it is in the SP. You are the expert of the Pundarika Sutra. Can you think? Devadatta chapter 12. And then there's actually assurance of becoming a Buddha, that a little bit, but not completely.
Chapter 6, bestowal of prophecy. Chapter 6 is where he bestows the prophecy on everybody who is there.
Right. That assurance of becoming a Buddha. Chapter 6.
Also chapter 8, enlightenment for 500 disciples.
Right. But there's one I thought it's something to cover with the potential of the Buddha. Okay, maybe I'll try to find slowly. Okay, and on the similar context, on the similar sort of subject, prayer. Buddhists also do prayers. Question is, does the prayer really work? Really? To whom do we pray? Does the prayer really work, or is it just another of arbitrary, wishful thinking? You know, the Mahāyāna Buddhists will say no. Why? Because of Buddha nature. To wish that my dirty cup become clean is not wrong, because it's undeceiving. Even though while you are not washing, even though it looks dirty, you know, actually the dirt is not there as its nature. It's a temporary, it's a removable. That is like the pillar and the heart of the prayer. Okay, let's move on to blessing. How does the blessing work? Is there really somebody giving blessing and the receiver of the blessing? Yeah, you can have it on the relative level, but the real blessing is this. You are Buddha already. This is the real blessing. And this is I used to say this is quite an important element of the Mahāyāna Buddhism. I think many religions have some sort of a dual, you know, like, okay, there's the God, and there's the mortal human beings. And the gods are gods, you know, they are the perfect being, and the mortal, you know, not perfect. But what is the communication? How do you communicate? Too pure, not pure, how do you communicate? Then I guess many religions come up with answers, like sort of half God, half human communicator, sort of broadband, sort of between the God and the mortal. What is the Mahāyāna Buddhist broadband? Buddha nature. You have the Buddha. Your Buddha nature is the broadband, so to speak. You have it. You don't have to buy, you don't have to download. You can roll inside the mud of the samsara, this impure world, for millions of lifetimes. Your Buddha nature is not going to reduce or what you could decrease one little bit. You could be spending time in a pure monastery or a nunnery for thousands of years. Your Buddha nature is not going to grow or, you know, like become better. It's perfect as it is. And so many examples are given in the Shastras, like a destitute, poor being sleeping in, you know, he has this bed, and under the bed, actually, there's a treasure, you know, mine. But he hasn't realized. And so many years after years, he's sleeping right on the top of the treasure mine. Need to be understood. You have, like the seed, like a mango seed and the tree. The seed doesn't remotely look like a mango or the mango tree. it looks so small and, nothing. But with the right cause and condition, tree and the fruit and the flower, us, you and I, doesn't remotely look like the Buddha. But we have, like the mango seed, there is that. All we need is water and fertilizer and all of that, cause and condition. Oh, so many examples. Going back to the blessing. Okay, this is quite an important one. How does the blessing work? Okay, so you are suffering, you are in pain. I don't know, you want a Ferrari or something like this. So you pray to the Buddha. So when you pray to the Buddha, okay, an outer Buddha, like a statue, okay, I don't know, you have a shrine, you have a Buddha. And in a Buddhist mind, Buddha is the perfect being, this prince who renounced his palace life, who has 32 major marks, 80 minor marks, golden color, shining halo, all that paraphernalia of Buddha. And you think he's the holy, he's divine, all of this. This is your projection. This is your mind making it. And what mind? Again, coming back to the Tathagata Karma. So it is actually like looking at the mirror. When you look at the mirror, your face appears there. So the Buddha that Buddhists are talking is actually the reflection of your innate Buddha, innate Buddha nature. You are reflecting there. By the way, the thief, the, burglar, the bad guy, is also your mind's projection. But because of the karmic condition, you don't have the capacity to, pay homage to the thief when he comes to your house. Saying, the Buddha arrives. You don't think, because of your karmic conditions, you think, this thief. You understand? Even though it is just another of your reflection. But for those who are following the Buddha, the reflection of the Buddha is just, reflection of your true nature. And if you pray, what you are doing, basically you are praying to your own reflection, and then that slowly, slowly, slowly uncovers the innate Buddha nature. And realizing, actualizing this Buddha nature is what we call the blessing. So it's really not really coming down from somewhere. This is how the Pundarika Sutra will put. Okay, any more questions? Before that, what we will do is, before we end, we will apply, just so that, you have been hearing this again and again, very intellectual, very academic, very theoretical. Some of you might want to sort of go home with some sort of a technique to get closer to this basic goodness of human being. So what we will do is, we will do a so-called meditation aiming to, touch the base of the Buddha nature, just briefly. But please, if there's more questions.
Tashdile Rinpoche, my question is, do you think humans are all hypocrites? Like how we are always in search for happiness, but if there is someone kind in front of us helping other people, they're called dumb. And if they're hurt, they're called dumb and told not to help people and not be that way. So do you think they're all hypocrites?
Yes, but human beings also have a lot of nice qualities. And many so-called nice qualities are also not so nice at times. Many so-called not so nice qualities can also take you somewhere it can awaken you. It's too complicated. It's really, really complicated. Something called, yeah, I think we are, I don't know, maybe we are talking something separate. We are talking about a morality here. In Buddhism, morality always takes the second place. Wisdom is the most important. Morality without the wisdom, it's a source of righteousness, puritanic, I don't know. It is not going to liberate you and others. It will just create more pride, yes, hypocrisy. Okay. Any? Yeah. Read.
Rinpoche, with the strong cultural and wisdom traditions we have in our country, most of us have grown up with some or a lot of exposure to the various facets and schools of, I guess, what is now called Hinduism. Many of us also have exposure to Sikhism and Sikh culture. Many of us also to Islam, especially, I think, Sufi culture or Sufi way of thought. Unfortunately, we've not had as much exposure to the Buddha's teachings, to the extent that for some people it almost feels foreign. So how can we in some way respect or continue to have or practice our cultural traditions, but yet be able to study and learn from and contemplate on the Buddha's teachings?
Well, first, I think Buddhism generally, and probably Jainism also, is not so useful from the, human social point of view. You understand? I always say this, Buddhists don't even have a proper good marriage ceremony in the sutras. They don't think these things. Buddhists only talk about the truth stuff. So I always say this, how do you have a Buddhist marriage? Like after the wedding ceremony, you say, okay, everything is impermanent. You might get divorced tonight. So it doesn't have this kind of a socially, there's not so directly. Indirectly, as I said, if in the schools, in our education policy, in our whatever, management policy, in our environmental, commerce, whatever, if we have some understanding on this Buddha nature, for instance, I think it will make a big difference. The world will become compassionate, more understanding, more appreciation towards something called dependent arising, so on and so forth. So I think Buddhism in general, everywhere, is declining a bit. Buddhism has always been adopted really, really strongly in China and still do today. I mean, it is quite amazing that after some 30, 40, 60, 50 years of cultural revolution, all that, Buddhism just spring up again, just like almost overnight. But I was saying this recently. I went to Europe. I just came back a few days ago. But, Buddhism talks about non-duality a lot. I mean, that's like the quintessential. If there's any species on this earth that will feel at home with a non-duality, it will be Indians. I really think so. So based on that, I think there's still a lot of chance. Because in India, whatever is bad, supposedly bad today, tomorrow something is good. Everything, there's not so much clear distinctions between what is bad and these are really, really good ingredient for the Buddhist study. I think even from the social point of view, it would be really good if India can embrace Buddhism a little bit more. Probably I'm going to annoy my Indian friends here. I always say this, India really haven't really produced anything that is impressive as an export good so far. Is there? I don't think so, not so much. The Indian good that is being exported, that's so, have such an important, impact. I don't think so, not so much. Maybe Bollywood, a little bit, yoga, a little bit, cotton, maybe. Not so much, I don't think so. I don't know, you can argue with me, but wow, Buddhism. That's a big, big export. And it's a very important soft power, I think, if people wake up to this. So really, that's now taking root even in the West, in the academic, intellectual, like Shiva, Vishnu, Ganesh. You can't claim that they're Indian because they aren't gods. They don't have citizenship. But Buddha, he was at the risk of annoying the Nepalese. You can say Buddha was an Indian prince, and Buddhists say that he's a human being. So I think, and if the Buddhist philosophy have nothing much to offer, then of course that's another thing. But values such as dependent arising, the basic goodness of human being, these are really important, especially for now, more than ever. I really strongly believe if 3 American senators believe in the basic goodness of human being, I think it will change how the world works. I think fundamentally on the education level, so it's India should pay some attention to Buddhism, and I mean like Tantric Buddhism. Wow, what a gift from India to the world. That's like so amazing. It's like a I don't know, it's the most magical, and it's still alive and vibrant, and it would do good. Any more?
Rinpoche, you just said that we are all seeds, and then the mango trees lies latent within us. So what are those fertilizers and water and sunlight that will make us grow into a tree?
Oh, so many. And depending on different beings. For instance, feeling lonely, feeling bored, even that is a fertilizer. Instead of numbing it, which that's what we usually do, entertaining ourselves, getting distracted, trying to get distracted, maybe take advantage of that. That's actually one of the best fertilizers, but kind of hard to do because nobody wants to suffer, Then longing to the true nature, searching, questioning. Oh, that's a big one. The Buddha said this, question, not for the sake of answer, question for the sake of questioning, again and again, stuff like this. And then also contemplation, which we will do it very soon, maybe after a few questions. There was one lady there, please. Yeah, after that, yeah. After this one, yeah.
Also from Mexico, Rinpoche. You were talking about potential. Can you elaborate a little bit further what it means, description?
Come. What is the word dhatu in Sanskrit? Dhatu, Kharsura. Element, Sura. Element. Dhatu is the element. It's I think it's a translation of the word, Sanskrit word dhatu, element. It's like this. To make a tea, there's some element you need, some really important element. The cup is not the most important element. You can even drink tea with your, I guess, hand, if necessary, if you have no choice. But human being, now the Buddhist, they're more worried about the cup. That's the problem. But let's not talk about this one now. But tea, well, very big element is the tea leaf itself, right? And then I guess the water. The tea leaf. Without the tea leaf, then there's no tea. So that's what we are talking about when we talk about dhatu, element. Like a fire and the fire's heat. Moisture and the water, okay? The moisture is the element of the water. So the Mahāyāna, the way when they look at a sentient being, the cognizance, cognizing, like, see, hearing, getting bored, getting agitated, feels like scratching, whatever. You understand? Cognizance is the element of the Buddha. But when the tea leaf is not inside the water, it doesn't look like a tea as in, drinking tea. It doesn't look like at all, especially when it is in the bag now. So right now, you and me don't look like a Buddha, don't function like a Buddha, don't think like a Buddha, don't talk like a Buddha, don't dress like a Buddha. I don't mean you need to shave your hair and all of that. But that dhatu, the element, ingredient, is there, intact, nothing missing. That's what the Lotus Sūtra say. And by the way, even the Lotus Sutra, even the reason, even the very title has a significance. Lotus, born in the mud, never stained, always, not stained by mud. Likewise, our Buddha nature, surrounded or wrapped around by the negative defilements or whatever, but itself is always clean and pure and pristine. That's what we are talking about. Okay, one last question, and can we have just one last? Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
yeah,
whoever.
I
Please.
got the mic.
Okay.
So I'm the lucky one. Rinpoche, our basic instincts, are they like the Buddha nature or close to the Buddha nature?
Basic instinct. Now,
yeah.
I think that may be a little bit different.
Different.
That may be. I don't know what you are talking about. Instinct. What is instinct? Basic is fine, but I don't know. Instinct, as in reflex, probably not Buddha nature. Buddha, yeah. Okay, just to answer this. And this is an important one, and I think we will end it here. This is important. If you ask me, prove me that there is a Buddha nature. How come? Day by day, all I feel is negative. I'm filled with emotions, negative emotions. How do I know that there is a Buddha nature, right? Minute by minute, moment by moment, I'm, filled with all this dirt. How do I know there's a Buddha nature? The Mahāyāna's answer is, because you are dirt, the defilements are all temporary and purifiable, removable. This is the one of the main logic. And that you should accept. For instance, when you get angry, how long do you get angry? I mean, 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year? Your emotions come and go. It's all temporary. And this is a good proof. Like another example is like the cloud covering the sun. Cloud goes, and you think the sun arises. But it's not true. Sun is always there. Okay. Now, we will... we have talked about the Buddha nature a little bit. So we will just for the practical thing we can do. Now, this is important. With the motivation, with the intention of, first you need to have the intention of experiencing, tapping, getting acquainted, recognizing this basic goodness of human being or Buddha nature or Tathagata Garbha, whatever you want to call it. Okay? That should be the motivation. That's important. Not for good life, not for good car, not for success, not for, Remember hay and the rice? You look for rice, not for hay. That is important. Okay? With this motivation, we will apply few discipline, very simple, such as sitting straight. So please sit straight. And as you sit straight, just watch your thoughts. And as the thought arises, do not judge. If the thoughts are not good thoughts, don't condemn. Just watch. If it is good thoughts, don't get excited. Just register. And as you are aware of one thought, there will be the next thought coming. Just watch that next thought. You don't have to finish with the first thought. And maybe you don't even have thoughts. If you don't have thoughts, just be aware of that. And don't look for something special. Because we are calling it a Buddha nature, maybe you are looking for a special sensation or a special realization or some kind of a light or experience. Mundane is very beautiful. Mundane is sacred. If you are thinking about car honking, then just be aware of that. if you realize you have been following a thought, then come back to just knowing the thought. Okay, now please think, this attempt to face the Buddha nature, Tathagata Garbha, basic goodness of human being, may the merit of this enlighten all sentient beings. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to, once again, express my really joy for having this opportunity to accumulate merit discussing the Tathagata Garbha. I must thank Niluji, the whole family, and letting us make a havoc in your place here. But I hope that discussing the Buddha nature will benefit some of you as much as possible. And I also thank all the staff here who has been working so hard, tirelessly. And have a lot of fun, because actually enlightenment is something to do with the fun. Stay out of trouble if you can.